Welcome to the BBC News Desk. We have breaking news of a serious incident between Russian and NATO forces near the coast of Latvia. It's not known what caused this latest incident or at exactly what time the conflict took place, and that Russian forces have returned fire.
And we're just receiving reports that at least one NATO warship has sustained serious damage as a result of direct fire from Russian forces. Details are unclear and the number of casualties remains unknown, but it's reported that at least one vessel has been sunk with major loss of life and that contact has been lost with a further 2 ships in the area. The US president has condemned the Russian military action, calling on President Putin to pull back from what the US government has described as a reckless and warlike posture which can only lead to greater conflict. World leaders have expressed their condemnation of Russian military action, stating their support for US and NATO forces. The Pentagon has convened a meeting of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and a worldwide military alert has been declared for all US forces with immediate effect.
The conflict in the Baltic Sea continues to escalate. Several destroyers from the Russian Baltic Fleet have been spotted near the coast of Finland, indicating a potential major escalation in the scale of the conflict and increasing fears that the fighting may get out of hand. In response to global condemnation of Russian military action, President Putin has stated that Russia will use whatever means are necessary to defend itself, including the use of its strategic military capabilities.
Reporting restrictions have been imposed due to the sensitivity of divulging troop movements, but we're hoping for an update from our local reporters in the region and from other news networks in due course. In the UK, the mobilisation of the armed forces is continuing, with a full recall of all reserve forces and heightened security at military bases and airfields. Typhoon fighter jets from 29 Squadron at RAF Coningsby in Lincolnshire and 6 Squadron at RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland have begun patrolling UK airspace, and restrictions on civilian and commercial air traffic have been imposed around military and nuclear power facilities.
And just to recap on the main points so far, a serious incident has been reported between Russian and NATO military forces in the Baltic Sea, apparently resulting in direct fire from Russian warships against US and British naval forces, resulting in the loss of at least one naval vessel, and with casualties now exceeding over 200 troops killed and several hundred more either injured or unaccounted for. A NATO spokesperson has reported significant troop movements in Russia near the borders of Latvia and Estonia, prompting fears that a much larger regional conflict is becoming inevitable. And we've just heard that the government has passed the Emergency Powers Act, bringing the country into a formal state of war preparation and suspending many peacetime activities and functions. Central government in the UK has been suspended, and power has now been passed instead to a system of local officials dispersed across the country.
We're just receiving reports that the Russian Air Force has bombed several military installations in Poland, and that Russian tanks and heavy armoured divisions have crossed the border from Belarus into Poland, just west of the city of Brest, which must surely mean that they'll push directly towards Warsaw. Russian paratroopers have surrounded the strategically important port of Gdansk, and heavy fighting has been reported in the area. We've also had news that the Russian Air Force has attacked NATO missile defence systems in Romania, and that Russian paratroopers have taken control of Odessa in Ukraine. Warships from the Black Sea Fleet have been spotted off the coast of Romania, and reports indicate that Russian special forces have landed just north of the city of Constanta. The NATO military base at Deveselu in Romania has been hit by cruise missiles fired from the Russian guided missile frigate Admiral Grigorovich, with over 40 confirmed fatalities and heavy damage to buildings and runways. The government of neighbouring Moldova has declared a state of surrender and has pledged allegiance to the Russian state, providing a potentially important staging position and indicating Russian intent to push northwards and retake the western half of Ukraine. An estimated 20,000 Russian troops are reported to be massing on the border of Belarus, just north of the Ukrainian capital of Kiev, furthering concerns that a complete invasion of the former Soviet country is underway. The Russian government has warned against any NATO interference in its military activities in Ukraine and the Baltic region, stating that any hostile action by NATO forces would require a full retaliatory response against Western Europe and the United States. A statement from NATO Central Command is expected shortly, and we'll bring you that as soon as it comes in.